is going on, everybody? Welcome in to the North End Podcast, episode 117. My name is Zach Graham, your host here in the North End, joined, as always, by my good buddy. He's on record as my best friend. His name is Ian Michaud, and we call him I know you like that one. Episode 117, with 17 days to go until the season opener. It's John Gallagher Day in the countdown. But as always, I will ask you, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing well. A little odd to be recording this late at night for us, but here we are, pressing on. Obviously, some things to chat about that have some implications, some stuff going on here. We've reached that point. Man, I'm just excited. I obviously, after that, I've said obviously 3 times already. After the Diego Rubio signing there, getting that live stream going and just getting really amped up about being back there. I can feel it in my loins for sure.
Well, you're sounding like Mike Tomlin here off the top with how many times you said obviously there. So, I'm in for that.
Obviously.
Let's go ahead and jump into some of the Austin FC news of the week, and we'll try to go as chronological as possible. The morning after our last episode came out, episode 116, last Wednesday evening, we got a tip the next morning that CJ Fodrey was seen at a St. David's Medical Center with a brace on his right knee. He was at the team, like that event they had at Evo Entertainment the night before. He was at a season ticket holder event that afternoon. Pictures from both of those events, long pants. So I imagine that brace was under there, maybe being hidden. You never know. So after we heard that, we're trying to figure out it's not a good sign to be going off campus with a knee brace, to get an injury checked out. But we've never seen him on crutches. And I know that Hernan was able to, after we kind of posted the news, like, hey, something's going on with CJ. Hernan was able to confirm that it's not like a season and it's not like an ACL tear or anything like that, which obviously is great news that it's not the worst case scenario. But we have not been able to, I think, confirm what the injury actually is. CJ is on the trip currently with the team out in California. He has missed the last 2 preseason matches against Louisville City and Chicago Fire. So if I can play doctor here for a second, athletic trainer, whatever.
You went right to doctor.
Well, aim high.
Yeah.
I think he was probably there getting his ACL checked out. And obviously no crutches. He's on the trip. Like it's not that serious. So in my uneducated opinion, it's probably sprain, bone bruise-ish. I think the fact that he's on the trip to me says that there's at least hope that he's able to get out there and train while the team is in California for this 10-day period and maybe even show up in one of these 2 remaining preseason matches, maybe both, in a best case scenario, but hoping that he heals up, rather quickly because we're 2.5 weeks away from the opener.
Absolutely. I mean, him being on the trip is a good sign that it's nothing, too serious, which I know we kind of ran with a little bit in the community there. People were getting a little worried about his status. But yeah, being on the trip, that's a great sign. I think, again, got to be overly cautious here. If he had some swelling or, like you said, a bone bruise or some pain, some irritation in that knee, you play it safe, you get it checked, you go from there. So heal up, CJ. Looking forward to a big step from him this year.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it would suck for him to miss, some more time in this, beginning stages of a second season. Obviously, after the first season when he experienced those injuries, kind of set him back a little bit. So here's hoping that it's not like that. And it doesn't sound like that.
Yeah. It sounds like we avoided disaster, or rather CJ avoided disaster. And obviously we're all pulling for him to get back ASAP. Same day, we had a report out of Sweden, an outlet there called Sport Blade. I'm sure I'm butchering that, but they reported that Austin FC made a bid for 19-year-old center back Kingsley Giamfi. So my first thought was, we're going to get a Giamfi after all. My buddy Stephen Anor there. But Hammarby IF rejected the offer and, quote, believes in a bigger sale later if he gets time in the Swedish First Division and makes a breakthrough there. So, again, like I'm not beat up about that. I don't know who this kid is. But, again, the club continuing to be active, whether it's Miguel Borja type swings or this kind of more of a prospect type player, 19-year-old center back. I think it's just good to see that, those reports coming out that the team is active behind the scenes.
I mean, we've been running a tight ship here since Rodo got into town, and that's been the status quo for how this front office wants to operate. Obviously, also don't. Good God, I can't stop saying obviously. So I don't know anything about this kid. Like you said, though, it is good to see that we're active. The thing I'm most interested in is obviously, oh my God, you see the differences between the Miguel and his age and his status and how he had been, and then this Kingsley player. And to me, the most interesting aspect would be what type of contracts were we looking for those guys? Because we've seen these kind of short-term deals, right, with Diego in here now, and people have been clamoring for like a longer-term, younger kind of prospect that's going to come up with us. So I was wondering if he was part of that larger, broader idea of forming this team out, into the 2017s and what have you. So that's the most interesting and compelling part of that story to me. Does it suck that we missed out on potentially that reason you gave that his club gave? I think is fine. I think that's a pretty adequate answer. Like, they believe in him, they believe in his potential, and you can get a higher return on him later. That's solid business. Yeah.
Well, and clearly Austin FC believed enough to make an offer there. So, and that's I would think significant that you're paying a transfer fee there and international spot, right?
Yes.
So, that was definitely not nothing, but we can go ahead and leave that in the past. Let's jump ahead to Saturday, where Louisville City FC came to town at Q2 Stadium, of course, closed door for the corporate sponsors there. Pre-match, got some pictures of Damian Loss in his new Louisville training gear. Getting some love from Brad Stuver out there on the pitch at Q2. First half lineup for Austin was more of the same in terms of the mixture of FC2 guys that are in camp and first teamers. We had Stuver in net with a back line of Sheikh Toure and John Gallagher, who had switched sides. So we did have a little source in the stadium there, which was nice. So Sheikh on the left, Johnny G on the right to start this one, with a double Austin FC2 pairing at center back with Sally Maz and trialist Antonio Gomez. Then Johan Valencia at the 6, Owen Wolf and Seba in front of him. And then up top, Chris Garcia, the loanee from El Paso Locomotive, Emi Rigoni on the left, Hadar Obrian on the right. Any thoughts on that lineup? I don't have many thoughts on the mixed lineups that we have here.
Nope. They're just trying to find something, give dudes a chance with different players. Interesting that, Gomez as a trialist. I wonder if this Kingsley dude was a potential, would have shown him the door.
I think Antonio Gomez, I know they say he's on trial with the first team. Mm-hmm. I think it's more like he's on trial for FC2. And just in camp as a body. Because, looking at him coming off the bus in Cali yesterday, he's a big, he's closer to Matt Hedges' size. Mm-hmm. So, and again, this is a guy that Coach Terry Boss identified, and they picked up, obviously, as an undrafted guy. But I have never been under the impression that Gomez is truly, a prospect for a first-team contract. And maybe I'm mistaken. And then more power to him. We need another center back there. So if he's the one that's deemed CB4 coming into the year, let's ride, baby. But I've just been operating under the impression that this is an FC2 guy at best this year.
That's interesting. Also, when you just brought up CB4 there, is it not Alex Ring?
It is right now. I don't think that is what the team wants to do heading into the season.
I understand that. Obviously, yeah, we have of midfielders.
I mean, this episode is just called Obvious.
I was going to say, I was going to message you after the show and be like, hey, this is the title, but I didn't want to fucking say the word again. But to me, I think Alex should be CB4. Again, I just feel like that probably gives us the most amount of talent we could have out there in a potential situation where it's like we're down potentially 1 and 2. You know what I mean? Like we were last year at sometimes.
Don't we want another body though? Like I think I could get with that in the sense that where you just said, like if 1 and 2 are out or 2 and 3, what 2 of the top 3 are out, right? I think that whoever CB4 is, it's more likely than not that Alex Ring could be a better option in that spot than whatever young supplemental type guy that we bring in. Is that what you were kind of getting at there?
Pretty much. That's pretty much what I'm trying to say. I would prefer that he's actually CB4 in that situation.
Okay. Well, we'll see. I mean, I don't think there's any question that we need another body, given what we just went through last year.
For sure. I get that. And even if somebody were to come in, it's like I still would probably want Alex there because it's like, are we going to put an undrafted free agent? Like, do you feel better about that just because the dude's so much bigger than Alex? I don't know if I necessarily do.
Right. I personally think, and we can move on here. I think CB4, if and when that player is brought in, I think is like an MLS veteran, not a young out of college type of guy. I think it'll be scrap heap nonetheless, for lack of a better term there, but somebody that's a little bit more established. So Austin does find the back of the net first here against their USL opponent. It was Hodder Obrian opening up the scoring. Emi Rigoni breaking down his defender on the left, getting across in there. Seba Driussi runs in, nice little dummy. Obrian cleans it up. So feeling good at home, right? Paying attention to the Twitter feeds and what we can get out of those who were at the stadium. But I really felt like, okay, like we're going to take care of these guys as we did last year at St. David's Performance Center. And 8 minutes later, we are tied. And reportedly, this was a little bit of a mishap by Antonio Gomez on this first Louisville goal.
Look, we kind of touched on it before we got into the show here and trying to gauge preseason soccer and the implications of what it means going forward for a club. I just think there's too many variables. It's incredibly difficult. If Antonio Gomez is out there and he's making mistakes, even versus a USL club, I would assume that they would punish him for that. Yeah. So it's frustrating because, it brings back the PTSD from last year where we would score a goal and then immediately give one up and just find ourselves back at basically a 0-0 game. So it's discouraging. I'm not reading too much into it.
Yeah. Leo Väisänen did come in to close out the first half. So that was his first appearance in live action here in the preseason. The teams did play. What's that?
I said I will read into that, and that's
for sure
encouraging. Like that we're getting him acclimated back and on path for a go here in the first season opener.
Yeah, absolutely. They did do the preseason 120 minutes here, so they did take a halftime break after 45. But the second half really happened at the 60-minute mark is when we saw wholesale changes for Austin. Damian Lass did come in at the 46-minute mark after that first break for Louisville. And then at 60 minutes, here is the lineup that Austin rolled out there. You had Steph Cleveland get back there in net for Stuver. You had Hector in on the left, Hedges and Cascante the pairing. So you got Leo out of there pretty quickly. Alonso Ramirez took up his spot at right back where he's been in the preseason. Alex Ring at the 6, Danny in front of him, Val Noel at the 10, Jimmy Farkaloon on the left, Ethan Finley on the right, and Jassy Zardes getting back in there up top.
Good.
Well, didn't take, I guess this goal came before that change. So maybe some tired Austin legs there in the 51st minute. Louisville gets a goal to go ahead. And then 80th minute, we get Val Noel, his team leading second goal of the preseason from way outside. That looked like 25, 30 yards. It wasn't a clean strike. It did hit the post. Damian Lass had made a dive for the ball. He missed it, hits the post, goes off Lass's back and into the net. I think some others maybe detracted a little bit more from Val than I did on that goal. I still thought it was a pretty nice strike. We don't get a lot of that in Austin. And look, we've talked about the international spots and the hurdles that that rule presents for a lot of these FC2 guys that a lot of Austin fans perceive as being on the fringe of earning a first team contract. Val definitely doing his best, and I thought it was a pretty nice strike there to equalize in the 80th minute.
That was a hell of a strike. I mean, would you rather see Valencia shoot it 30 feet over the top of the
the 0 XG shot?
You know, that's on frame, and we get a lucky bounce. We can accept those, y'all. We can. Yeah. They've happened to us. You can accept that compliment. Take that.
Yeah.
Well, all right. Well, that brings good wuju going forward. Let's get those posts warmed up, baby.
Yeah, absolutely. So we get to the end of the first 90 minutes there, all tied at 2. Louisville City brings on a number of academy kids for the extra 30-minute period. Zan Kolmanic did come in and make his debut, I believe came on for Hector. And then he ends up picking up the reported assist. Austin goes ahead. I want to say with like 12 minutes to go it was. Zardis scores off the Kolmanic corner kick. And nice. A few minutes later, there was varying reports out of the stadium what it was this Sal Mazzaferro actually came back on for the last 15, 20 minutes or so. And what we were told was this was a wayward pass by Sal out of the back a few minutes after Giassi got the goal to go ahead. And that's where we end up a 3-3 draw after 120 minutes at Q2. So I think there were some certain positives there, some negatives. But again, I think especially when we've got some of these very clear FC2 players out there, you don't want to read in too much to the preseason games. But as I've stated before, I would much rather be winning these preseason games than losing them or draw with the USL team who plays academy kids.
Facts. And I mean, look, you know, it's hard to gauge the impact of these games right now. Like everything should just be a lesson. Like we gotta figure out like this went wrong. Obviously errant passes. You don't need to learn that over and over again to understand that it's not a great thing to be happen out there. So like if we can take away from these games, the things that we need to take away from them in regards to how we want to play, how we're going to approach things, then I'm totally fine with it. When the first game kicks, nobody is going to remember any of these fucking games. And I do agree. It is not great to see a USL club with academy dudes out there get a late equalizer on you in your home stadium. Of course not. Like I'm not encouraging that, but still at the same time, as long as we move on from it, understand what we're trying to build, it's just a preseason, man.
So moving on, we did, I want to say maybe Saturday night, Sunday morning, more confirmation about the kit. Obviously, we've seen some pictures, but I think it was Footy Headlines that put out a picture, a blurry image of the back of the neck, right, where there's typically the little message. Like last year, I think was "We will sing with you forever" on the Las Voces, the barcode kit, right? This one says 525.5 Barton Springs Road, which is the address of Armadillo World headquarters. Of course, you can go back to last week's episode, listen to it. We did 8 to 10 minutes on Armadillo World headquarters, little background there.
This is a good history lesson.
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you this, man, and obviously we talked a lot about the kit last week, so it doesn't need to be a long thing, but the more I think about it, even seeing the kit now, haven't worn it yet, haven't bought it yet, obviously, but the ties for me personally that we discussed last week, this automatically jumps to the top for me.
I totally get that. I don't have that connection, but I mean, like you said on the last episode, you're in Austin, Texas because of this place.
So born because of this place.
It is really, it's really, that's a special connection, man. Like that's awesome. And I hope that there's a lot of people rooting for the club who also have that like deeply rooted connection here in Austin. And I imagine there's several others.
All right, well, let's clean up the Diego Rubio talk, I guess, because we did about 40 minutes on Diego Rubio on Monday afternoon when this signing was announced by the club. So you can find that in your podcast feed. You can find it on the YouTube channel if you want to go back and listen to a bit, some lengthier takes on this. I'll reiterate, I still feel like this signing is a 10 out of 10, all things considered. It's not a 10 based on the guy's talent. It's not a 10 based on what it means for the results of this year's team, but for what we need, how much we got him for, the talent level that the guy does have, all of those things combined to me. This is a perfect signing in the context of what it is. And we even got, man, and maybe, we don't always respect the opinions of the more national pundits, your Weebies, your Doyles, Goss, etc. But praise all around from those guys over the last 2 days, which definitely doesn't, like, we can joke around about, oh, well, now I don't like it, right? But like in reality, that's a good thing that these guys, for once this offseason, are saying, oh, look at what Austin did. Diego Rubio for $350K. Just kind of echoing what we were saying the other day.
The price is fantastic. The length is fantastic. And I mean, we've been on record talking about how we feel like this team was one impact player away from making some noise. I still view Diego Rubio as an impact player. Like, he can still do it. Obviously, he's coming back off this injury that he's going to have to bounce back from, and we go from there. But he's a good caliber player in this league, and we were in desperate need of that.
Yeah, and the team, flying out to Cali, Diego Rubio on the trip in training yesterday with the team. He was on the bench today, did not see any action. But I would imagine if we don't see him on Sunday against the Galaxy, certainly next Wednesday against Red Bulls. And I guess to cap off the Rubio talk for today, I know we talked about starter in the first game. I was still on the Zardes side. I think you also said you were on the Zardes side. I'll save any more detailed questions maybe for our over-under segment here in a couple of weeks. But are you surprised if Diego Rubio ends up starting more games than Giassi Zardes this year?
No. I think he will.
Okay.
We were on the stream there, and Ari's brought up splitting time, and in my head, that probably meant like a 60-40 Diego. Even if it's, I mean, you have to factor in Giassi health into that as well. But yeah, I would foresee more starts for Diego Rubio.
Yeah. Well, it's exciting. Just waiting. I hope he debuts in the preseason on Sunday when the Galaxy match is streamed and we can all see him in action. Nothing like some little preseason hype if you can get a Diego Rubio goal in his first appearance and everybody can see it.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be contingent on their play, obviously, but I just think at this stage in their career and the way that Diego has performed, he was a DP player when he came to the league, right? Yeah, absolutely. DP guy came in the league. Like, this was a coveted guy. He's not far removed from that. So I would foresee, more time for Diego.
Well, dude, that's like I know I said we were going to move on, but he is a year and a half removed from 16 goals, which if he would have done 16 goals last year, puts you in the MVP conversation.
Exactly.
Like 22 was a little bit of an outlier where you had Driussi and Hanny blowing away other guys who were still in the high teens in terms of their goals scored. I mean, again, I think that's his ceiling outcome probably for his career, but he's got double digit, like we were setting the line right at 9.5. I don't know if that's where it ends up in our over-unders, but yeah, man, I'm still buzzing about that signing.
I mean, even when we brought in G last year, right, and we watched the G highlights and the tape on G and all that stuff, he was not doing the things that Diego Rubio is doing. G, I love G. I'm a huge G supporter. He cleans shit up. He's good in the air. He knows how to find rebounds. He gets the ball off his foot. This Diego Rubio guy develops his own shot. Move on you onto the move shot. Boom. Can take set pieces. So there's just a lot of opportunity here for Diego to flourish in this offense.
Yeah.
Our offense was not awful last year. We generated a ton of chances.
Right. The finishing was bad.
The finishing was bad, but our offense overall was not terrible. It was obviously the finishing and then the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah. Well, man, and if you look at the just finishing up on Giassi here. Again, like I'm not leaving this guy for fucking dead. Far from it. Like last year is like goals per 90, which isn't everything, right? Mm-hmm. But he was top 50 in a league of 29 teams in terms of goals per 90. And it's not a Will Bruin, I played 350 minutes and scored 3 goals per 90, right? This is still a guy who played almost 1,500 minutes last year and gave you 6 goals. Again, all in quick succession. We would like to see it be a little bit more consistent over the course of the full year. But I still think Giassi himself, I think his line is very close to Diego Rubio's in terms of goals scored coming into the year.
I think that's very fair. And you know, Giassi could be better suited for 30-minute goes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that could be at this stage in his career, like what he can really be efficient with. So it's exciting, man. I'm ready.
Yeah. Let's get back on track here. I know we just pinging all over the place there, but how about this name for you? Latif Blessing. All right. Obviously we posted on our socials yesterday just asking the question, is Austin FC kicking the tires on 27-year-old midfielder Latif Blessing? He is currently under contract with Toronto FC. And what we are not doing is reporting that there's been an official trade offer or even interest from either club, right? There's no buyout imminent for Blessing. But we were told by somebody who would know about a situation between Toronto and Austin or the player and his team, what have you, that there's interest there somewhere along the line.
Yes.
So again, we don't need to talk, I don't think, anymore about that. If that were to, if that was a reality, where would he fit in? He's on an expiring deal, got a team option, $665K cap hit. What are your thoughts immediately off the top there for a guy like Latif Blessing?
It's perfect. Almost like a jigsaw puzzle fit.
Okay.
Like that contract, where he's at in his career, how we are gearing up towards this summer window and moving into next season, and him potentially being able to come off the books with that team option. You get him in under the max salary cap hit. Dude's a starter. He's a good player. He's been on good teams. I would welcome him. I think it would be a very, very good fit. And again, I know that we have we're most deep at that midfield, right? But still, I don't think having a weapon like that is something that you should just scoff at. Like, this is a dude who we can get in here and get quality out of. And then even that, like if you're talking about extending these dudes, so keeping them healthy throughout the course of the season, being able to rotate more with high quality players, not Ronnie Redis, is
right.
So I would totally welcome that.
Yeah, and I think I don't think there is, I guess, from a performance standpoint, at worst, he's good MLS depth. At best, he's a game in, game out starter that you can count on, especially if we have some injuries in that midfield. From a cap perspective, $665K. If it was a longer contract, not something I'm really interested in. But expiring deal, the team, from how we understand the cap looks right now, again, not having a full accounting of the team's GAM coffers, I don't think that the team would have any trouble fitting in Blessing's 1 year expiring contract this year and maintaining as much flexibility as they desire headed into the summer window. And of course, next winter when he could come off the books completely. I also just don't know if that was going to be a trade. What are we giving up? I don't want to give up too much GAM just for a rental of Latif Blessing. But again, I think it comes back to this, which maybe is just a little bit elementary. But if this is a guy that we are going to go after, I trust in Roto and his team's decision making, because pretty much everything he's done, I have been a fan of. Again, it's all relative, but this was certainly interesting when this came to our attention yesterday.
That is quite interesting. And again, it would come down to how we acquired him. Like if it's a trade, I would prefer buyout, obviously, and just be able to sign him if we could. But, there are things that we could give up on that cap sheet that I think that I'd be fine with. I think you floated Bersano and some money, or potential other ways.
I said Bersano and GAM. I think that is a little far fetched.
Yeah, I mean, you can enhance that package in a different, a variety of ways.
Yeah. Well, anyways, just wanted to talk about that for a few minutes. We'll see if anything comes of it. The first and second team did announce some staff changes yesterday. Several updates to the club's technical and operations staff ahead of the 2024 season. The club hired Iago Aguilar Azon as the director of domestic scouting and recruitment, John Turner as director of player personnel. Aguilar spent last season as assistant to the football director at TS Wisla Krakow in Poland. He holds a UEFA Pro coaching license, has previous experience in coaching, developing academy teams, scouting, and as a technical advisor. He has also worked before his time in Poland, in Spain, Georgia, Hong Kong, and the UAE. And then John Turner, holds a JD from Tulane University Law School and will support Rodolfo Burrell in matters related to player acquisition and management, as well as roster budget and compliance. So again, Rodo building out his team at the top there in the front office. And then on the sidelines, former Austin FC2 assistant coach Jason Grubb, who helped guide, of course, FC2 to the next pro title last season, has joined the first team coaching staff as set piece coach. In his role, Grubb will be tasked with managing the teaching, planning, and execution of first team set pieces, cataloging set pieces, and communicating strategy to Austin FC2 and Austin FC Academy teams to integrate all club programs into the team model. I love this last part with Coach Grubb because I remember one of my favorite things about all of last season with FC2 was the set pieces. Whether they were resulting in goals or not, they were extremely dangerous and creative, and set pieces on both sides of the ball is something we need help with on the first team. So I know nothing about the first two guys. We know a little bit about Coach Grubb's work with FC2 last year, so I'm very excited about that one.
That is super exciting to get a specialist in there, somebody who can really help fine tune this stuff for us. And again, like you said, I'm glad you used the word creative for a way to describe the Austin FC2 set pieces that we saw last year, because they were creating excellent chances. Obviously, you're going to have a pretty low success rate on set pieces in terms of translating into goals. Mm-hmm. But we were generating great quality looks in creative and different ways consistently at that Austin FC2 Next Pro level. So I'm all for it. Hopefully we can get a bump there. Love to see a jump there, because that would be absolutely huge for this club if we can start finding ways to score more consistently on these set pieces.
Yeah, absolutely. And then this morning, match day 4 of 7 here in the 2024 preseason, we got a little hype video. Well, I guess first of all, Rooted in Austin episode 1 came out last night. Love to see that. That's when you know we're the season is truly approaching, when we get our episode 1 there of Rooted. But another little hype video this morning where we got one piece of crumbs, and it was that cap, Alex Ring. Mm-hmm. Cut the hair back to high and tight. Looks like, man, looking sharp. But I know there were many fans who were showed their dismay that the long flow, the man bun, the top knot was gone. So controversial haircut there, Captain. But I think you look sharp.
Yeah, I'm all for it. I'm going to get my hair cut tomorrow. I should have scheduled it earlier, because I share a barber with some players here, and we go to the shop and talk some soccer, which is always great. But it looks good. I was not a fan of the other flow, man. It was not okay. It was not what I was looking for with him. But
all right. Well, then we get to game time. It was 3 p.m. Central here in Austin. And for the first time this preseason, we got a full 11 of first teamers beginning this one. So we had Stuver in net. We had from left to right on the back line, John Kolmanich, Leo Väisänen, Julio Cascante, and John Gallagher on the right. Then we had Alex Ring at the 6, Danny in front of him, Seba in front of him, Emmy on the left, Ethan Finley getting the start on the right with Giassi Zardes up top. So I was excited that we are finally to the point of the preseason that we're getting all first-team guys out there. This is where it starts to get real, right? These are the halves I really want to watch.
Yes.
Any thoughts for you on that lineup? Because overall in the first half, there's a couple Austin fans out there at Coachella. Obviously, fans have access if they made the trip. So a couple notes coming in here and there. Chicago had their Twitter feed going with a thread of updates. Austin did the same, but a pretty quiet first half results-wise. Your takeaways on the lineup?
Fine. Like you said, getting to the point where we're ramping up here. We're not working with, I think, the 11 that we're actually going to be starting, but those are all guys we're going to see out there on the pitch this year.
Yeah. I did see it. I will shout out Los Verdes member Ethan Church, who is out there. And Ethan, I apologize if I mispronounced the last name. He was out there posting some pictures, giving updates. That was great to see. He did post one pregame where Galaxy were coming off a 3-0 thrashing at the hands of Charlotte. They got absolutely handled by the team that just got rid of 2 DPs. But there was a picture of Emmy and Seba talking with Diego Fagundes. Now we do have to say Fagundes now on the pod since we have new Diego. But that was cool to see those guys being able to catch up out there. And shout out Ethan again for the updates. It was fun to follow along.
Very cool.
Only 90 minutes today out there at the more official Coachella Invitational, and the big subs. I think we had 2 at half, but then wholesale changes in the 60th minute. And coming out of that, the lineup looked like this. You still had Stuver in net. I believe he played the full 90. Hector Jimenez had come in there for Kolmanich. He was one of the halftime subs. Then Antonio Gomez came in for Julio Cascante. Johan Valencia came in at the 6. Then Danny in front of him. Owen Wolf had replaced Seba at the 10. Hadar Obrian came in for Emi Rigoni and stayed on the left. Those are the first minutes we have seen from Hadar Obrian. On the left, Ethan Finley was in there on the right. And Chris Garcia came in up top for Giassi Zardes. And then 14 minutes later, 64th overall pick in this last December's MLS Super Draft, Lawrence Wooten scores the only goal of the match for Chicago. So we definitely did not like to see that, but a couple other changes. 77th minute after the goal, Shaik Toure came in for Johnny G. Val Noel came in for Danny Pereira, and then Jimmy Farkaloon came in for Ethan Finley. And 6 minutes later, 83rd minute, Micah Burton subbing in for Chris Garcia. So we did not, again, CJ Fodrey did not play. Diego Rubio did not play, nor did Stephen Cleveland. Brad got the full 90 there, it appeared. But I love seeing Micah get in there, even if it's just for 10 minutes or so.
Absolutely love seeing that. I haven't seen the Chris Garcia kid. Is it going to be hard to say that he's better than Micah?
Who, Chris Garcia?
Yeah.
I don't know. We will be able to see plenty of them, I think, at the pitch this year, because obviously Garcia, an FC2 loanee, and Micah, first-team contract, but I think going to spend the vast majority of his time this year with FCito. So we'll be able to tell. I mean, not really. Like, Garcia's billed as a winger. He's played the majority of his minutes at the 9 with the first team this preseason. And we know Micah more of, that central midfielder or even winger before striker. He's gotten more of his minutes up top, I think, with the U.S. youth national team. So he's versatile, but I think we'll be able to be a lot more definitive in how we categorize those guys when we get to see FC2. And we'll get to last business day in a minute.
That's my favorite thing. Favorite takeaway from this game, Micah getting that time there.
Yep, absolutely. Couple other pieces of first team news. Well, first team news here. We like to touch on the players when they sign elsewheres, and Sophie Jafal is the latest Austin FC player to find a new home. And not an MLS. Orange County SC is the new home of Sophie Jafal. So teammates again with Charlie Asensio, Austin FC 2 player Eric Lopez also out there in Orange County SC. So Austin FC West is Orange County out there. So any thoughts for you on Sophie's new home outside of just wishing the kid well?
I'm not going to wish him well.
Oh, well, okay.
He took shots.
He took shots
after he departed, and now he's out of the league.
It wasn't even after he departed. He was still a member of the team.
Oh, well, he might have well been gone. No, I'm not wishing him well. I don't know why you would send a shot like that and then find yourself in the USL, bud. Have fun.
Yeah, I will still wish him well, but I also think it's notable, especially those who were like, where's Sophie Jafal? Like he was some sort of savior last season. 28 other teams. Well, we'll say 27 since DC cut him the year before. Everybody passed. So, maybe the coaching staff that sees these guys every day knows a little bit better than your average fan.
Maybe.
Possibly.
But now I'm thinking about him. Did he tweet something or he liked some shit or
it was I don't know.
Yeah, whatever.
He's in USL now.
I'm getting too riled up.
This might bring a smile to your face, Ian. Of course, we never wish injury on anybody, but looking ahead to our first opponent on the 24th, that is Minnesota United. Emmanuel Reynoso went down with a knee injury in training yesterday, apparently, and I have the quote right here. Apparent left knee injury during training, visibly upset, head in his hands. Medical staff assessed him. He limped off to the locker room and did not return to practice. So we don't have any specifics on this setback for Emmanuel Reynoso, but I'm not complaining if he's not active on opening day. But also, if he's not active, pressure goes up to make sure you get 3 points out of that first one.
If he's not active on game day and they don't have a coach, we absolutely have to win that.
That's another thing, right? They still don't have their head coach. Their chief soccer officer, whose name is Khaled El Ahmad, apparently he wants Minnesota to play more of like a high-intensity pressing style. So Minnesota Red Bulls, I guess. Like, I don't know. But the funny thing to me is that if this guy in this Twin Cities or the Pioneer Press article I was reading, they suggested that because the hiring process for the next head coach has been progressing and nearing a conclusion, no timeline has been shared, and it's possible that they do have an interim here. They've got an interim, Cameron Knowles. But yeah, it's a little bit like opposite Austin last year, where like our coach was playing GM, and now it's like their GM is kind of like playing coach here, talking about how he wants the team to play. So this team is not in a good place right now, and I know we're 2.5 weeks out still, but we'll take it at this point.
Absolutely. I mean, Reynoso, one of my favorite players in the league. I love watching him play. Disappointing that he's hurt, but nobody showed us mercy last year when 10 wasn't playing. So you're not going to get any from me. Man, it reminds me of when Vivek bought the Kings, and he was like, yeah, we're just going to keep one player on the other side of the court.
Has anybody ever thought about cherry picking before? My 5-year-old's team did it. Worked pretty well. Shout out Vivek. All right. Well, this the first of a new recurring segment here on the North End podcast, just given who we have loaned out. This segment will be titled
The Best Keeper in the World.
The Best Keeper in the World segment, checking in on one Damian Loss every week here on the North End podcast. Damian did get the start today against El Paso Locomotive in another one of Louisville's preseason exhibitions. Played the first half, clean sheet. Greatest keeper in the world.
Let's go, baby. Prepare to get shut out, Sophie Jafal.
Yeah. Well, hey, like Louisville is going to come down and play at San Antonio, I think, in October. I think that's MLS decision day, so we probably won't make it down there. But, yeah, new segment. Shout out Damian. Keep it up, young buck. That's a nice little bridge, a pathway between our first team news and last business day here, E. No new signings to report, but a couple news items here. Practice did officially start on Monday for Coach Utley and the guys who are in Austin, like obviously Garcia and Noel and Sal and all the other names, Alonzo, Chaik, all out there in California. So a little bit low on bodies probably here in Austin, but the team is getting to work. The MLS Next Pro 2024 schedule comes out tomorrow on Thursday, likely when you are listening to this, or it has already come out. So I am certainly excited to see the 2024 slate revealed to us. I want to, obviously, we circled Dynados matchups anyways for the rivalry, but I want to go see some Steven Anorgiambi this year. So looking forward to that. First preseason match is this coming Saturday against Houston Christian University, formerly Houston Baptist. Your thoughts there?
I'm also very excited to see that schedule, pick out some games that we're going to make it up to. It's always a blast up there. What was it $14 pitchers?
Something like that.
You know, that's good. You get to get a real good intimate feel of the game. You're kind of right there. You said there's a scoreboard, a better scoreboard.
Yeah, new scoreboard. Yeah.
So that sounds good. I'm definitely excited to get up there and looking forward to watching those boys defend the crown.
Hopefully there is no spreadsheet out there of the proposed concession increases at the pitch. Right?
Yeah, it would be really to leave that out.
Keep, stop that shit. Former FC2 player Chris Pinkham showed up in Pittsburgh. So Austin FC East, now Jackson Valty and Chris Pinkham playing for the Pittsburgh Riverhounds of USL this year. So good luck to Chris. And I did hear, reportedly, we will be able to buy Austin FC2 kits this year, with the Next Pro font on there, the FC2 badge, which will have a star. Might have to get one.
Ooh, yeah, shit. I'll get a Micah.
And a short academy update. Rematch for the 15s and 17s against the FC Dallas Academy this past weekend. Of course, 2 weeks prior, the 17s dropped one late. The 15s got a big win. This week, opposite of that, revenge for the 17s, 3-2 victory. 15s take one on the chin, 6-1 loss there against FC Dallas. All four MLS Next teams, 13s, 14s, 15s, and 17s, will play against Houston Rangers this coming weekend. One of those un-MLS affiliated or non-MLS affiliated clubs in MLS Next. So good luck to all of the academy teams. Anything else for you on last business day?
No, sir. Good luck, boys.
Closing it out as we do in the preseason with a spin around the MLS news of the week. The nonsense also will return next week. I think our over-under is probably going to happen next week, potentially our team draft as well, because the following week on Tuesday night is the 2024 Verde Best Ball League draft. North End Podcast, Moon Tower Soccer, the defending champions. We Are Austin TV, Texas Ring of Fire, Phil West, Verde Pendant. That's going to be a blast. Tuesday night, the 20th. Then, of course, we will have our regularly scheduled episode the following night. I would say with at least one guest on that. Potential for double guest. We'll see. We'll see if all the right strings are pulled. Back to the MLS news here. Danny Masovsky signs with Seattle. Gets a 2+1. I felt a lot worse about that before we got the Diego Rubio signing. I am very interested to see what his compensation looks like compared to Rubio. I do not imagine it looks better.
I know you've been interested in that number, that figure. Yeah. I know you're dying for it. So when you get there, buddy, I'll be happy for you.
LAFC, we found out shortly after we posted last week's episode who that third hat was, right, of the triple signing that they announced. This doesn't look good either. Venezuelan youth international David Martinez. That's your look, football critic, an expert on these guys. So I've been following what he had to say about this kid. He seems like an amazing prospect. 17 years old. He was just playing at the U23 World Cup. So playing up just 6 years, Yeah, LAFC, rich get richer. They reload.
Who were the other two?
Last week we talked about them.
We did? I thought we just talked about the hats. I don't remember saying any names.
Edward Atuesta, remember the guy that was best 11 in 2019. They sold him. Now they've got him back. We definitely talked about it because I have it in the notes. And then also Tomas Angel, Juan Pablo Angel's son, their scout, former Red Bulls player. Yeah, we talked about him.
All right.
So yeah, LAFC finalizing their trio of signings there. Man, and I don't honestly know how many twists and turns this saga has taken. Duncan Maguire still not a member of Blackburn. There is an appeal tomorrow. This has gone back and forth, I think, no less than twice in either direction. Was a sale, then a loan. We touched on it a little bit last week. Apparently what they did in Blackburn, rather, a failure to submit the paperwork properly. Instead of hitting submit on the document that they hit save and missed the deadline. So that appeal is tomorrow. Poor Duncan, man. His birthday was in the middle of all this shit. So
this man just been on a jet back and forth. Hey, Blackburn, if you need a competent associate, I'm available.
Yeah.
I know how to submit things.
Yeah. CF Montreal officially signed Joseph Martinez, 1+1 TAM deal. So certainly out of the range for what we wanted to spend on striker reinforcements there. But probably going to help Montreal and what they're trying to build up there north of the border.
I mean, shit, he would have helped us. It just wouldn't have come at the right price. You know, like he can still score goals, and like he had a resurgence with Messi. Obviously, I don't think that's going to be translating to playing with non-Messi players, but he was incredibly engaged when he was playing with Messi out there. And like, you know, so he would have helped us. But again, it's not necessarily the player or the name right now. It's the structure of the contract and what we're getting out of him.
Yeah. TAM deal means somewhere between 683,000 and 1.6 something million. So again, expensive contract there, but a 1+1. Philadelphia Union officially re-signed their team captain Alejandro Bedoya. I think he's like 36 or 37 now. So, you know, he'll still give them solid minutes, but definitely a vibes guy at the forefront at this stage of his career. The elder statesman there for a very prominent Union club. Charlotte FC, as I kind of hinted at earlier, open a DP spot by loaning out Karol Swiderski to Hellas Verona. There's a purchase option on the loan that auto triggers if Hellas Verona avoids relegation. They can still pick it up if they do get relegated. And then Charlotte opens a second DP spot by transferring Kamil Józwiak to Granada. So obviously the season is, approaching very fast, but a lot of maneuverability for the rest of this window and then into the summer for Charlotte as they, you know, really try to get off the ground for the first time as a club, entering their third season now, of course, a year behind us.
That's interesting. Gonna have to keep an eye on that.
I agree. Our boy Enzo Capetti still there. So we'll see what he can do. He scored against the Galaxy today. Orlando City wasted no time filling that Duncan Maguire spot. So if he has to come back, maybe Duncan Maguire is loaned out for 6 months here. Who knows? Orlando City signs Luis Muriel from Atalanta. The 32-year-old forward will be a DP, scored 68 goals, had 28 assists for Atalanta. That is a huge signing for Orlando City as they try to maintain their spot among the top 4 out east. And then finally today, Chicago Fire, our opponents out there at Coachella on Wednesday, they're the ones that win the Kellen Acosta sweepstakes. So he will arrive with them shortly. I don't know, man. That's a pretty good signing, I think. Very solid for this league. And adding to Hugo Cypers, I don't know how to say his last name, but their record signing, the $12 million man. He was not active today either, but Chicago making moves.
They are definitely making some noise there.
All right. Anything else for you here on episode 117, E?
Nah.
All right. Well, we'll keep it moving. And if you've got 5 extra seconds to rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast, wherever you get your podcast, we would greatly appreciate it. If you're watching on the YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell. You can know when a live stream pops up or a new episode goes live. And of course, on this episode, hit the thumbs up, like the video, help us battle the YouTube algorithm overlords, atone for your sins. Wash yourselves clean in the waters of the North End. We will be back next Wednesday, just a week and a half away at that point from Soccer That Counts, recapping this weekend's match against the LA Galaxy, recapping next Wednesday's match against the New York Red Bulls, and talking about everything else in between. the return of the nonsense. Exciting times.
Quite exciting indeed.
All right, everybody. Appreciate you tuning in once again. Enjoy your weekend. Enjoy your Super Bowl Sunday. We'll see you back here next Wednesday. Until then, he's E, and I'm Zach. Vamos Austin FC, everybody. Goodbye.